of these chairs sit lower than the other
I
ones?
was wondering that. I thought maybe I was losing my mind. I was like,
I feel like I'm seated at the child's table, you know, or something like that.
We're live.
Were we live before? Oh, okay. Okay.
Hi, Council Member.
We'll go ahead and get started. I call to order the meeting of the Manassas Park Governing Body for December 15th, 2020. First, we have our usual statement. Per the General Assembly's approval of the Governor's amendments to the biennial budget, the governing body may now meet electronically without a quorum actually assembled in a single location, and without the in-person governing body members voting on the participation of those who are remoting in. The following benchmarks for the meeting this evening have been met. First, the governor has declared a state of emergency for the current COVID-19 pandemic in accordance with Code of Virginia. Second, the declared emergency makes it impractical or potentially unsafe for the governing body to assemble in a single location, and guidance from state and federal governments support this determination. Therefore, the governing body will be meeting with various members participating electronically through GoToMeeting. Third, the meeting is to discuss or transact the business statutorily required or necessary to continue operations of the governing body. Fourth, the governing body will make available a recording or transcript of the meeting on its website in accordance with Code of Virginia. Fifth, notice has been and will continue to be provided to the public using available methods. Lastly, we have made and will continue to make arrangements for public access through electronic means, including the ability to comment. Participating electronically is Councilmember Hector Sendejas, Councilmember Hasib Javed, and Vice Mayor Preston Banks. Those participating in person are Councilmember Alana Mensing, Councilmember Donald Shoemaker, Councilmember Miriam Machado, and Mayor Jeanette Rischel. Okay. Next, we have approval of the agenda. Are there any changes or edits to the agenda? Okay, hearing none.
Do we have a closed session tonight?
No, we don't. No. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstained, motion carries. We have an agenda. Join us in a moment of silence, and Councilmember Machado, would you lead us in the pledge?
It will be my pleasure. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next we move on to public comment time. There will be two opportunities this evening for public comment. There will be a public hearing after this, and the folks can comment then. But right now, this is the moment, this is the time for general public comment. Has anything been sent in?
No.
No? Okay, hearing none and seeing none, we will move on to 3A. 3A is a public hearing for the FY21 budget amendment. I declare the public hearing open. Is there any added information from staff, or do you prefer to comment during 9D?
Yeah, I would prefer to make my presentation during agenda item 9D. The presentation I made last week was covering what was advertised.
Okay, thank you. Are there any governing body questions now, or hold off until 9D?
I have an idea. I mean, I want to propose this before we get down there. Is instead of, I was looking at the package, and it's a good package. Is it possible for us to cut the tax rate 1 penny and have it effective for half the year, so it's half the cost? It effectively costs $75,000. Would that?
This is the public hearing part of it.
Right,
Can we have the discussion later under 9D? Sure. Okay. Is there any public comment Has any been sent in? Okay. Do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. This will be discussed and voted on later in the meeting under 9D. Okay, moving on to number 5. Item 5 is a recognition of Ms. Amelia Powell from Parks and Rec. Whereas the governing body of the City of Manassas Park are extremely grateful for the great service provided to our community by all of our employees, and whereas the governing body desires to recognize outstanding performance of our employees as they accomplish important projects, innovate solutions, and/or are recognized by residents and/or partners in our community and region for their outstanding work. And whereas the Customer Service Division of Parks and Recreation is truly the heart of the department, our programs, rentals, memberships, and special events would not be as successful as they are without the involvement of the Customer Service Division. Whereas Amelia has led the Customer Service Division for almost 8 years, it is no coincidence that under her leadership, the department has seen year-over-year increases in rentals, memberships, and department review. And whereas Amelia has played an important role in the department's yearly Santa Sleigh initiative, managed scholarships through Catherine's Caring Hands, and coordinated the Social Distancing Ambassador Initiative at City Hall since summer. Whereas Amelia Powell is always the first to volunteer to take on additional tasks in order to help her teammates out. She occasionally completes payroll and deposits in order to ensure that they are submitted on time. And whereas Amelia has created a positive work environment for all her front desk employees. The Customer Service Division has a very low turnover rate, as it often goes years without losing an employee. And whereas Amelia demonstrates the true definition of a public servant through her ability and willingness to be there for all of our patrons. She often comes in on her time off to meet with rental customers and discuss their event needs. She has built rapport and trust with so many customers that they not only become repeat customers, but they tell their friends. And whereas Amelia's humble, caring, hardworking, can-do attitude should be recognized and celebrated. Now therefore be it resolved that the governing body hereby recognizes the great service and accomplishments of Amelia Powell of the Department of Parks and Recreation of Manassas Park. Be it further resolved that Amelia Powell is awarded with a Performance Spotlight Award certificate for her outstanding service by the governing body and signed by both the mayor and the city manager of Manassas Park. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. We congratulate Ms. Powell. Amelia was not able to be with us this evening. I believe City Manager would like to say a few words.
Yeah, just thank you very much, Mayor and governing body, for recognizing Amelia and really the entire Parks and Rec team. I want to personally thank Amelia for her hard work and dedication and the professionalism by which she manages the Customer Service Division. It's just very impressive with how many customers we manage. Excuse me for a second. We manage in the city, in the Parks and Rec Department and Community Center, and just how few customer complaints we actually get. The entire department is just a joy to work with. Amelia as well, and just they're all very dedicated. So I want to thank Amelia and Jay and the entire team. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of termination of declaration of protective covenants and restrictions.
So moved.
Do we have
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Sorry, I sort of jumped the gun there. Okay. Moving on to 8A, appointment to the Planning Commission. We have an appointment. Mr. Beckett's appointment was delayed because there is a membership cap of 5 members on the governing body. Mr. Beckett's agreed to wait until the current chair's appointment. I'm sorry?
You said governing body, planning commission?
I'm sorry. Did I say governing body? Goodness. That was the Planning Commission. Sorry, folks. Sorry. Mr. Beckett's appointment to the Planning Commission was delayed due to the membership cap. Mr. Beckett's also agreed to wait until the current chair's appointment expired on December 31st, 2020. Mr. Beckett's credentials are strong, and his experience is varied, and he will make a wonderful addition to the Planning Commission. Do we have a motion to approve the appointment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, abstained, motion carries. And we thank Mr. Beckett's for stepping forward and volunteering to serve the city. Thank you again. Okay, moving on to new business, 9A, Bowman contract extension.
Evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, citizens, and staff. We issued our last RFP for city engineering services, on-call engineering services in late 2013. We contracted out of that RFP with 3 different firms. Bowman Consulting was one of those firms. They have been active with our plan review and many of our professional services that we have a need for in community development. We have a new RFP ready. It's being reviewed by VDOT currently. As some of you may be aware, VDOT has to review our RFP to ensure that all the requirements of federal procurement and state procurement are met in the RFP, so that it's a smooth transition when we make selections and onboard them, that they can go ahead and go right to work on state and federally funded transportation projects. So the RFP is going to be probably another month or so hitting the street, but we don't want to lose the continuity of service. Bowman, the other firm's agreement ended on December 31st. It was extended by amendment. What we're seeking to do now is to go ahead and extend Bowman's contract to June 30 of next year, to make sure that all the work that they're doing with plan review and the services that they're offering to the community development department and the city attorney can continue while we get new firms on board. So the recommendation is that we go ahead and execute this contract amendment to extend our services agreement with Bowman until June 30, 2021.
Okay, thank you, Calvin. We'll go one by one to see if there's any comments or questions, and let's begin here with Councilmember Mensing.
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Machado?
Yes. Hi, Calvin. So what is going to happen after June 30th? What is the plan?
Well, we'll go ahead and issue the RFP on the street as soon as VDOT's review is completed and we finalize the document. And that RFP for services will probably hit the street early mid-January. Once that happens, the RFP will probably, your respondents will have about 30 days to put together their proposals. We'll review and screen those proposals for them. We'll notify the selected firms. They'll have to be audited by VDOT, and then we can start entering into contract with the firms that we select from this RFP. It's quite possible that Bowman will submit and be selected for a new agreement with the city with a new set of terms. And at that point, we would then probably re-amend this contract to terminate it, or just have a full termination of this agreement to enter into a new agreement. But we intend to be under contract with several firms by June 30.
Okay. Thank you, Carmen.
Do you have a follow-up?
No, I'm good.
Councilmember Shoemaker?
I guess I don't really. I guess was curious is will Bowman be one of the bidders for the new contract?
Yes, more than likely.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Councilmember Javed? Councilmember.
No questions. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Sendejas?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Banks?
Alvin, until their extension deadline of June 30th of next year, is there any projects that are they going to work on, such as the Connor Drive extension for the city?
So they're already tasked. They have several task orders out there that they'll be finishing up, that they're currently finishing up. So any of those already tasked services would be essentially okay to continue. This is in case that we need to extend new tasks for plan review or other services between now and the time we get other bidders under contract.
Will it cause problems in terms of if we do select a different company after the RFP? Will it cause any problems in terms of the transition of the continuation of the task?
No, our intention is to do it the same way we did the last one, where we contract with multiple firms, because different firms have different specialties. So we want to make sure that they have the available resources to focus on a project when we give it to them. So it's good to have multiple firms under this contract. In this particular case, Bowman has been doing almost all of the stormwater plan review and the development plan review in accordance with our public facilities manual. They've also been working with Dean on some of the downtown documents. So we're hesitant to leave agreement with Bowman at this time. None of the other firms have any open tasks or ongoing projects that they're currently working on. So the recommendation at this time is to only extend with Bowman. But again, we intend to have multiple firms that we actually target for agreement out of this RFP.
Okay, thanks.
Follow up, Preston? Nope, you're good.
No.
Thank you. Okay, staff recommendation is that the governing body approve and authorize the city manager to sign an extension of the final term of the on-call engineering service agreement with Bowman Consulting Incorporated to June 30th, 2021 in substantially the form presented, subject to final review by city attorney.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Next we have annual leave rollover, 9B.
Good evening, everybody. Again, City Manager Laszlo Palco presenting on this item. This here was a grassroots effort from some of our employees looking for some additional support from the city, really to recognize their hard work and effort this past year. The pandemic and just the lack of opportunity for vacations due to social distancing and closures. We had to pull back a lot of vacations right during the outbreak. And just the high operational tempo, especially at the fire department and EMS, to make sure that we have sufficient staffing to continue to provide services for our residents. So what this proposal does is it allows them to carry over their annual leave from calendar year 2020 into calendar year 2021, instead of having that annual leave converted to sick leave. There wouldn't be any financial impact to the city by doing this. It would just be more of a recognition of our employees of their hard work in 2020, and we'd be joining Falls Church, who's done something similar to this. I believe there are only other city guys who has agreed to do something like this as well. So we want to bring this initiative to the governing body for consideration.
Laszlo and Council, if I may, I did find out via Chief Soper today that Prince William County is also following suit with Falls Church and allowing the carryover of annual leave as well.
Okay, thank you. This is a wonderful idea. Mm-hmm. Is it just for the period of time that we're experiencing COVID? We're in a COVID situation?
This proposal would be for calendar year 2021. It can vary. It can be set by you all if you would want it to be until the vaccine is out. We figure that post-vaccine being out, there's going to be a desire to go on vacation. Mm-hmm. So I'd recommend we keep it for calendar year 2021, and then at the end of calendar year 2021, the unused balance from that we're carrying over now, plus the 2021 balance would then go back into sick leave. That's why there's not a financial impact, but just more of a flexibility for our employees and recognition to use that annual leave once the pandemic is over.
Okay, makes sense. Questions and comments? Councilmember Mensing?
No questions. This is a great idea, and I'm glad we can do it for our employees.
Okay. Councilmember
No
Machado?
questions.
Okay. Councilmember Shoemaker?
I just think it's a great idea so that people don't lose annually.
Great idea, yeah. Councilmember Javed?
Yeah, I just have, I guess, maybe a comment. I don't know if it's going to be temporary, but could we apply this for future years as a norm?
Well, we could, but then we would have to change. We'd have to change kind of the retirement policy then, because right now, so it's every year it rolls over, but when an employee retires, they're reimbursed for that retirement amount capped at that annual rollover number, which is currently 240. So if we wanted to increase that balance from 240 to a higher number, that would be something that we could evaluate, but we'd have to run some numbers before we do something like that.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I was just considering making some of these departments are very short-handed. They might not be able to take those vacations every year. So, something, I know the pandemic, but outside the pandemic, maybe if someone was so busy in 1 year, they could roll it over the next year, something to consider. But yeah, I mean, I like this idea, and
I think like Laszlo said, they would have to take a look at the numbers and bring back more information to the governing body. Okay. Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, we can look at other jurisdictions and see kind of what their cap number is in hours. I believe Valerie may have already done that. We're looking at the employee policy manual, but let me follow up with Valerie after the meeting when we evaluate the employee policy manual, which we hope to be bringing to you all within the next few months for approval for any amendments. And this can be one of those amendments as well at that time that we can present.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Sendejas.
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Vice Mayor Banks.
Just a comment. I think this is a great idea, and it's a way to, to be considerate and empathetic during this time of great stress for everyone. I know that to be on annual leave or to have to use your annual leave can actually be a dangerous thing because you're at home and now you've got to get out and go out somewhere because you're tired of being at home, and you can possibly catch something or catch COVID. So at least you're at work and you're kind of safe and not going out. So it's a great idea.
Okay, thank you. It is a wonderful, great grassroots effort.
I had one question. I'm sorry. It's one I thought of after. Just how much leave do full-time city employees earn? How much sick and how much annual? Is it?
Yeah, it varies by employee and their length of service. Valerie, do you know off the top of your head the max for those employees who've been here for, I believe, over 10 years?
Yes, for over 10 years, employees will earn 8 hours of annual leave per pay period.
So they're 26 days a year.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, Laszlo, and thank you, Valerie, for bringing this forward. Staff recommendation is that the governing body authorize the city manager to carry over city employees' annual leave for the calendar year 2020 into the calendar year 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thanks again. Okay, next we have red light camera. Welcome, Major. Welcome.
We have before you tonight is the red light camera program proposed for the intersection of Route 28 and Manassas Drive. a speed camera program for people that have in the school zone. In the past 24 months, the Manassas Park Police Department has responded to 135 crashes at the intersection of Manassas Drive and Seminole Road. 4 of these crashes involved vehicles striking pedestrians. Some of the research listed from IAHS studies found that the introduction of red light cameras have reduced violations by approximately 40%. And the deaths caused by red lights are on the rise. The cameras increase the odds that violators will get caught. A well-publicized camera program discourages would-be violators from taking those odds. The red light camera safety program would allow the Manassas Park Police Department to increase traffic safety and help reduce the number of crashes and related injuries to citizens of Manassas Park without any additional cost to the residents. Virginia Code 15.2, 968.1 is the legislation that governs the red light camera placement in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's based on the number of intersections you can have, is based on the population of the jurisdiction. We qualify for 1 intersection. Part of that code section, I've highlighted and underlined some sections here. Before the implementation of the traffic light signal violation monitoring system at the intersection, the locality shall complete an engineering safety analysis that addresses signal timing and other location-specific safety features. No traffic light signal violation monitoring system shall be implemented or utilized for a traffic signal having a yellow signal phase length of less than 3 seconds. All traffic light signal violation monitoring systems shall provide a minimum of a half-second grace period between the time the signal turns red and the time the first violation is recorded. The locality shall place conspicuous signs within 500 feet of the intersection approach that the intersection is monitored. And the locality shall conduct a public awareness program advising the public that the locality is implementing and or expanding the traffic light signal violation monitoring system. That's all required by code. How does this system work? The system activates when motion is detected just prior to the crosswalk after the traffic signal has turned red. When the event is detected, the system triggers the camera and captures 2 colored images from the rear of the vehicle. The first image shows the vehicle stopped behind the stop bar, but the signal illuminated red for at least 1/2 second. The second image shows the vehicle in the middle of the intersection, again with the traffic signal still illuminated red. The license plate image is cropped from one of these 2 images and captured. The data includes time, date, duration of the yellow and red signal is recorded. And we also receive a 12-second high-definition video of the event recorded, including the 6 seconds prior and 6 seconds after the violation. These are... Sorry.
Somebody needs to mute themselves until their turn comes to ask a question.
Here are samples of the 2 photos that are captured. The A shot is the first photo. If you take a look at the black sedan in the left turn lane, you see it behind the stop bar. The light is red, and if you can see that, I don't know if you can or not, the arrow pointing to the red signal phase is at 0. It just turned red. In shot B, the black sedan is in the intersection, and it also shows, which I don't know if you can see or not, the red signal phase has been red for 1.9 seconds. That would be a violation. Also, Virginia Code 46.882.1 governs speed enforcement cameras in the Commonwealth of Virginia. They are authorized for school zones and work safety zones. In order for there to be a violation, the violator must be traveling at least 10 miles an hour over the posted speed limit. It has to be either in a highway work zone where workers are present or a school crossing zone on school days. It goes further to state that on those school days when school's in session, the camera can be operational 30 minutes prior and 30 minutes after regular school hours. Signs must be posted again within 1,000 feet of the school crossing, warning drivers that is photo enforced. Vera Mobility is the company we're looking to contract with. What do they provide? They provide multiple payment platforms offered to the violator, from web e-payment, telephone, check, money orders, and also a local lockbox drop-off location. They weekly wire transfers to a designated city account, offer customer service by phone. This would also eliminate foot traffic from violators coming in like speak to citizens for city staff here. A collection service if we choose to utilize it. The police department, what would we have to provide? An officer must approve all designated violations. So when they capture a violation, they send the 2 photographs along with the video over to us. An officer must review that and decide yes or no that would be a violation. We currently are doing that with the bus cameras. This is the same company that we have contracted for that. That same officer would also be designated to, if a citizen would want to contest that violation and go to court before a judge, that officer would have to go to court and deal with that matter. Approximately 5% of these citations are being contested, a very low number. The Bureau Mobility Agreement, they have a fixed payment schedule of $4,750 per camera. We are looking to only put cameras at the north and southbound approaches at that intersection. That would be a $9,500 total monthly. And the speed cameras would be $4,000 fixed per camera. Again, we're looking at the north-southbound lanes on Euclid Avenue, the school zone. That would have an $8,000 a month fee. The flexible payment plan. So essentially, we would be looking at a cost of approximately $220,000 annually that we owe Bureau Mobility. That is paid by the number of violations and the number of violators that have paid. That's calculated over the 12 months. If out of the $220,000, we only have violations and payments for $200,000, the remaining $20,000 is written off and voided. The city has no obligation to pay. Some questions and answers. Some questions received at a prior meeting. There's a lot of problems with the proposal. Perhaps the biggest is installing a red light camera or speed cameras for revenue generating. The program highlights the needs for motorists to obey all traffic signals and speed limits with required signage prior to the photo enforced area. The goal of the program is to reduce the number of crashes and injuries related to these traffic violations. The photo enforced violations carry a civil penalty and no points awarded to the motorist operator's license. If an officer were to witness this violation and issue a summons, the fines are typically much higher and also carry points assessed to their license, which could increase their insurance. For an example, the red traffic light, it is set at a flat $50 fee. Typically, the fine for a red light, if we were to give you a summons for it, is 100 plus court costs if you go to court. The speed is a set $100, and the same, typically a speeding ticket is going to cost you more if we issue it. Do vehicles get tickets as soon as the red light turns red, or is there a 1 or 2 second courtesy? Again, the Commonwealth requires a steady red signal for a half second, and the front tires of the vehicle must be behind the stop bar or the crosswalk before a violation will be issued. So yes, there is a grace period. Do we see more vehicles speed up when the light turns yellow to avoid getting a ticket when the light turns red? Do red light cameras still cause accidents due to the additional stress of whether I'm going to make the light or not? The red light camera system is an overt program. Again, Virginia law requires us to provide a campaign publication to the citizens. We have to post obvious signage to motorists that the intersection is photo enforced prior to the approach. If a motorist is willing to risk or chance accelerating through a yellow or amber light to beat the red, knowing the intersection is photo enforced, I would suggest the motorist was willing to conduct the same actions without the camera. The goal is to modify driving behavior, obey traffic laws, and then take these risks that lead to serious crashes. The manual and uniform traffic control devices requires a minimum of a 4-second yellow light. The intersection at 28 Manassas Drive intersection meets this standard. T-bone crash is the most deadly. If we can prevent one, the red light camera is a success. The last question is, did the number of traffic accidents decrease in intersections with cameras as a result of vehicles driving alternate routes? From Bureau Mobility, their data from photo enforced intersections shows the number of crashes are reduced at these intersections, and that the intersection or crashes at other intersections that are not photo enforced are also being reduced.
Thank you. That was very thorough. Thank you. Councilmember Mensing?
2 questions. Does Vera Mobility provide the signs that we'll need to put up to the photo enforced signs, or do we have to do that?
I believe they do, but I can go check on it.
Okay, thank you. And my second question is how are we going to let people know, like what's going to be our procedure for letting everyone know?
So Vera Mobility will help us in with the public
Okay.
as far as newsletters and stuff like that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Machado?
Yes, I think this is a great idea. As you said, we need to change the driver behavior. Usually people are driving in a hurry, they are testing, speaking on the phone, and then realize and they are missing the light, so they just run. What is the experience with Vera Mobility and the school buses?
So far, our experience with them has been a good working relationship. If they notice a problem, they're quick to call us and say, hey, are you experiencing this? Can you check on this? If there seems to be some type of anomaly. Again, they send would-be violations to us, and we either acknowledge yes or no, it's a violation.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Shoemaker?
What is Manassas' experience with the red light camera since they just did it? They spent like 9 months, and they actually looked at 10 intersections or 12 intersections through their city and actually just put up one. And I would assume by population and intersections that they are eligible for at least 4, given their population. Have you reached out to them to find out what their experience is at Liberia in 28?
I have not. I know they're using a different vendor. They're not using the same vendor. The only thing I know is from personal experience that anytime I get stopped at the red light at that intersection, you see multiple violations with the camera being activated.
Yeah, I've seen that too. A few times I've driven through. Particularly, you notice it at night because it's bright light, versus that it's dark. I'm interested that why do we have double the accidents at Manassas Drive that they had at Liberia, even though they probably have as much or more traffic? Because I believe their figure was either 36 or 60.
In that intersection of 28 and Manassas Drive, we have about 14,000 more vehicles going through it than the 28 Liberia intersection. Just as a reference.
I see.
The intersection, our intersection appears to be wider. I would imagine that if a road is wider, people have the sense they can drive faster. Maybe.
Yeah. We have an additional turn lane that they don't have.
Right.
On the southbound side.
We essentially have 5 lanes, 6 lanes? 5.
6.
6 lanes.
And they only have 5.
Yeah.
And on their northbound, they only have 4.
I wonder if their intersection is more congested, if that would have anything to do with it than ours.
What about people who block the box and then move to unblock the box? Will they be getting a ticket because now they're in the intersection while it's red?
I'm told no. Again, before the system can initiate the violation, the vehicle has to be behind the stop bar or crosswalk. The light has to be red for 1.5 seconds and then proceed through.
Okay. I am not in favor of the speed camera. I don't want to be that city. I just don't, because, when you look at the other places that do this, it's just a tremendous revenue generation. Look at DC. They're the biggest abusers of it. Millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in tickets. Obviously, we weren't going to have that, but Montgomery County, Maryland, too, is just another where they just have them everywhere for no apparent reason. You're going along, and my aunt and uncle lived in Montgomery County. There was a spot that purposely went to 35, and there was a camera, and then about another 500 feet, it went to 45. It was a purposeful speed trap, and I'm not really sure, what that was about, but I don't live there. But
also, Vera Mobility has offered a pilot program for the speed camera specifically, where they would come out, install in the location for 2 weeks, for 14 days, and collect data that we could then look at and see if there's even a need for such a thing. Due to COVID and majority of the students working remote, they offered then again that once classes are in session, if we wanted to do the same pilot to compare data, that they'd be more willing to do it.
Yeah, you answered one of my own questions was why would we do the speed camera if nobody's on campus anyway? I mean, it would be a project looking for a problem because there's nobody down
The industrial
there.
section is back there, right? There's traffic from
There's more than just school traffic. However, there are some students attending class and teachers are on scene as well.
Yeah, I mean
We're not setting up a speed trap. We're not altering the speed limit. We're just putting so it's not going to be a trap, Donald.
No, I know. I'm just saying is that in other jurisdictions, they didn't start out the way they are now. It's like there's this reach where they start and then they add and then they add and then they add and then it doesn't look anything like where it started from 12 years ago, and then it's all of a sudden they have hundreds or even I mean, we're not going to have that scale, but the point is that they're not for the original purpose. I know that my question was the first one, and the reason I said that was partly what I just said, and that it was coupled with the proposal for parking in the same proposal. So, I mean, that would lead me to believe that you needed one to get the other, since it was presented together, and that's why I said that. So, the red light camera, that's why I asked you if you've reached out to Manassas, since they're operating one, and see what their experience has been so far, whether they are getting less violations, if they're getting less accidents, because if that's the purpose of this is to have less accidents, we didn't pick up the phone and talk to the city 2 miles from us to find out what their experience has been so far.
But
so they're not actually issuing tickets. So then they're in data collection?
No, during the campaign, the initial public campaign, advising people this was going on, placing the signs, and then for 30, 60 days, all violators will get a warning ticket before they actually start issuing violations.
I was going to say it's been up for a while, so I would think it's live, not just pretend live.
There's some people we know that's received a warning recently.
Okay.
But if they have collected data from a host of jurisdictions, if the general data shows that it reduces accidents, there would be no reason to call one specific locality. If the overall data shows that it renders the area safer.
Well, I mean, but it's a intersection that's very close to our city and has drivers that drive very similarly to our drivers, not in other parts of the country where they may have different driving habits or different experiences with red light cameras.
Chief looks like he might have a comment. Do you want to come to the microphone, Chief?
Talking to Chief King from Manassas City, they're still, obviously they can put cameras throughout. They had different areas in Liberia they were going to put these cameras. Why they decided on 28 to start off, I'm not sure. But they're still working with that. They're still working with the pilot program, trying to get the data filled up, I would believe. Now, that's the same thing we would have to do on Euclid, was to get a survey done to see if there's a need for it in our school zone. With all our kids walking down Euclid, we would have to see if there's a need. The speed limit, regardless, is 25. So even if we put the cameras up, it's not going to change the speed limit. And we get a lot of traffic, foot traffic down that sidewalk now with the kids crossing the street and walking back up. So that would be our goal, to get people to slow down and obey the speed limit.
Is it going to be actually in front of the school, or is it going to be before the stop sign?
It'll be south of the school.
Okay, so before the stop sign as you're approaching the school. So then, are we saying that we have small faith that they're going to stop at the stop sign, that they're going to just run right through it? They're going to speed and run through the stop sign?
No, I mean, we're more getting people to slow down. I think the issue here is the stop sign as much as the speed.
Okay. I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out if our issue is pedestrian safety. The path is not with the road. It's not even like a traditional sidewalk. It isn't even like a curb and gutter with the sidewalk right there. There's some, section on the school part of the property, which is where you say the camera would be. That part, they're going to have.
You also got to consider student drivers, new drivers coming down through there, get them to slow down, get people around them, their reaction. reaction time is probably not there with an experienced driver. So there's a lot of different factors that I think would, these cameras would help out with. Not just, pedestrian traffic. It would be more driving, slowing down some of these tractor trailer trucks, some of these business trucks that are coming down there doing excessive, 10, 15 miles over the speed limit.
But only for 30 minutes before and after school starts and school ends.
Yeah, but that's during class as well.
So it's the whole school day.
30 minutes before, all the way through 30 minutes after.
So it is 8-9 hours of the day.
School's in session.
Okay. So that's
So would
different
it
than
make
what
sense to do the entire workday, like from
7
whatever-
a.m.
Yeah,
to
like
3:30.
6 in the morning until 6 at night? Would that?
So by Virginia code, it's for while school's in session,
Uh-huh.
and then 30 minutes prior, so if school starts at 8, the cameras can come on at 7:30. If school's out at 3, they stay on until 3:30.
I see,
So
I
from
see.
7:30 to 3:30, under that scenario, will no camera be active.
Okay, so that's regulated by Virginia code. Okay, thank you.
I guess I wasn't clear because when in the presentation, I thought it was 30 minutes before and after the start and then 30 minutes before and after the end of the school day. That wasn't clear to me that it was the actual whole day. Do you feel that there's going to be a need to have a speed camera on at 12 noon?
Potentially, yeah, with kids coming out of school. Not all kids go the full day. Some do partial. People running late, appointments.
I guess I'm just not convinced that it's such an issue that we have to have a camera up for the whole day.
Okay, well, let's think about that, and let's move on to the folks and watching at home. Councilmember Javed. Comments or questions?
Sure. I had a couple questions. I'll start with my first one. Say a driver passes a red light camera, they get ticketed. The ticket gets issued to the owner of the vehicle. Now, if the owner of the vehicle is not driving the car, can they fight the ticket?
Yes, sir, they can. There's a form that you can submit with your mobility, and actually on the violation you'll receive, it explains all that.
So my question arises is this, would that be additional cost to the city if we're engaged in a court? We have to make appearance to a court?
No, sir, the officer's already attending anyway.
Okay. Councilmember Sendejas.
But if it,
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a follow-up, Hasib?
yeah, I have probably 2 or 3. I
Okay.
can do them together or separately. It's up to you.
No, go ahead. My apologies. Go ahead.
Sure. The other question was, if the tickets, I guess when someone does not make a complete stop at a red light turning right, they will still get ticketed, my understanding, because they're running the red light, correct?
That's correct. The same would apply. They'd have to be behind the crosswalk or stop bar. The light would have to be red for a half a second. And yes, the violation would be issued.
So like a slow stop will be basically ticketed,
Potentially.
or like a rolling stop, I guess, basically. And then how many admin people do we need to review these tickets that are coming in?
We
Is
have
there
one
one dedicated person that the department's going to have?
We have one officer currently doing that.
Okay, and then I guess my last question is the revenue that's generated, potentially that's generated from these red light cameras. What will they be used for? I guess this might be a Laszlo question. Is it coming to the general city fund, or can we maybe direct that to a different purpose?
Yeah, that's going to be your all's discretion. We have to first determine whether we'll even generate revenue over expenditures, right, from Bureau of Mobility, from reimbursing them for their monthly costs. If we start making money over that, then that's something we bring back to you all, just like we did for the parking enforcement revenues. That generate significant amount of money. The goal for that one, again, we've been petitioning to reinvest into expanding parking enforcement abilities. We do the same thing with this. If they start generating additional revenue, we would come back and recommend that we reinvest that money to improve traffic enforcement capabilities of the police.
Well, I meant say, I guess, probably going off of Donald, that he's worried about profiting over these the tickets. Say we start generating profit, instead of coming back to the city, maybe we could set up a fund for public, something for public social services department, schools, or something like that, so the public does not see that we're profiting off these tickets. Instead, is going to a good use. So it's something to consider in the future.
I mean, it depends what you define as a good use. If you want to show the residents that where the city's not making money out of this, you're best to put it in the back into tax cuts or reduction in fines. So give the money back to the public versus pushing it to some other program that, I mean, how do you define as good versus kind of police work, also being a good? It's hard to kind of define what the good is versus just general concern about us doing this to make money for the city. Then I would advise that we put that back into kind of the fund balance to help us do our tax cut plan.
I would think just about everything we do is for a good purpose. The city has enough needs that whatever we do not waste money. We don't waste revenue. Everything's put to a good use. Just my personal perspective. Do you have a follow-up, Hasib?
No follow-up.
Thank you. Councilmember Sendejas.
Yes, so in the presentation, there was a mention of 4 pedestrian incidents. Was that as a result of a vehicle crossing a red light, or what was the deal there?
I don't have those details handy.
Okay.
Do you have a follow-up?
I guess for me, overall, it's safety is number one over revenue. So, if there's more evidence that this is about safety rather than revenue, then, I'm going to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Banks?
Hi, Major Reinhardt, my apologies. I'm the culprit that interrupted your presentation. My enthusiasm gets the best of me sometimes. I think this is a great program. I mean, this hits home. I mean, as a kid, I saw my classmates get hit by a car, crossing the street because people were speeding or a person was speeding. And it's some things you just can never forget. And so I definitely think this is a safety issue. And I wish we had it in more locations. I mean, not only on the 28 Manassas Drive intersection, but, let's put it on in school crossing zones as well to keep the kids safe. I mean, we see the kids cross from that 7-Eleven across to Manassas Drive, and not only do the crosswalk, but they just cross the street in general in any way they can, and that can be dangerous. And so we can just put safety first. I think that's a great thing, and put up as many cameras as we can to try to keep the driver safe. And I wish this was expanded to the residential streets. As we hear so many complaints about speeding in our city. But my only question is, will the data collection and the reporting to the state police, will that require any burden on our part for our PD to collect or to help report?
No, sir, will not.
And my final question is, are you thinking about expanding this to other locations within the city that's needed?
The red light camera, we currently cannot. It is based on population, and we don't have enough population to warrant a second intersection. And the cameras can only, the speed cameras can only be used for active work zones or school zones. So we could potentially put one in elementary campuses, but I don't know if we're getting the speed that we're seeing on Google.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That was a great presentation. There are two motions. The first motion, staff recommends that the governing body authorize the city manager to sign the professional services agreement with Vera Mobility pending city attorney review to install red light safety cameras on Route 28 and speed safety cameras on Euclid Avenue. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Is that just?
No.
Okay, yeah, no, I heard you. Did I hear another no from the folks at home, or is it only one no from Councilmember Shoemaker? Okay. Abstain. Okay, motion carries. I'm sorry?
Councilmember Javed.
Okay, thank you. Okay. The second one is that the governing body authorize the city manager to sign the attached.
Mayor,
Yes.
the second one was an or, like if there was an agreement on the first one, that was an additional motion just to get more data.
Okay.
So
Okay.
because the first one passed, the second one's not necessary.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Okay, moving on to the next one would be FY21 budget amendment.
Next, the presenter.
Last week, you have an hour.
Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay. Any people at the meeting see that?
Can the folks at home see it?
Yeah, folks at home, I got the thumbs up. Can you all see that at the meeting?
Yes.
location?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes, I can see it on the screen.
Okay, great. Thank you all. So tonight, I want to go over just some updates. Can you all still see that? I'm sorry, I lost it on my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you reshare, Michael? Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's not available. Keith, can you make me the presenter again?
Yeah. There we go.
Okay, can you see that now?
Yes.
Okay. So tonight, I just want to go over some updates on changes since last week's presentation, and specifically give some more information numbers on parking enforcement, the annual reoccurring impacts per the mayor's request versus just the FY21 financial impact, since you're talking about less than a half a year remaining from the time that this gets approved versus the time that hiring can occur. And then I just want to go over the latest and greatest CARES Act numbers. We're getting very close to final expenditure amounts. I just wanted to provide you all an update on overall and by program. And then I heard Councilman Shoemaker's earlier request during the public hearing, so I just quickly crunched the numbers and created a slide just to give you what those numbers look like as well. Changes since last week, the main one being, of course, the parking enforcement issue that we discussed, adding the two positions, the enforcement position and the administrative position, what that could potentially cost us for the remainder of FY21, assuming hiring around February, March timeframe for the remainder of the fiscal year. Some upfront expenditures from an IT standpoint would incur in FY21 and then no longer in FY22 and beyond, besides maintenance and replacement. For FY21, we're forecasting around, in the conservative estimate, $8,000 for any tech support needed, laptops, things like that. And then again, the parking enforcement vehicle, I'll have a picture on the next slide of what we're talking about there. Subject to change, but that was the initial estimate of 6.1 thousand. Likely be more than that when you talk about all the upfitting that we need to do as well. So we can discuss those numbers on the next slide. Also threw in based off our discussion last week as well about kind of the code analysis and how quickly we want to move to that. I put in the budget amendment some additional kind of consulting support for the code analysis amendment for code enforcement and ticketing reform implementation, moving to ticketing for code enforcement versus the lengthy litigative process that we have right now. So getting consulting support to do the code amendments, the analysis recommendations for you all, and helping us to implement that ticketing program as soon as possible. So I tucked away $30,000 based off of an estimate that I've already received for that work. And then again, modifying the transfer to now a $142,000 increase versus the $442,000 by removing the high school roof program, which is currently in the CIP for FY22. Some more data on parking enforcement. You can see the numbers here. I just want to put as a reminder, I broke these down by the administrative position and the parking enforcement position. Just as a reminder that just in FY20, we had $200,000 uncollected in parking ticket revenue. That number is going up even more in FY21. So we really want to streamline the collection process, but also improve the customer service aspect so people don't have to call the police department and then the treasurer. It's kind of one-stop shop at the police department for collecting these revenues. And then again, having the police partner with Chris in his reforms with the payment portal, with kiosk payments, things like that, to make it a more efficient program for our customers. You can see the total annual cost for the admin position estimated at around $58,000 to $60,000, $43,000 salary. And then again, those numbers are subject to change always based off of health insurance, family plans versus individual versus dual increases each year, plus the reoccurring annual percentage increase that we have with our current pay increase strategy as well. But if you want to kind of a snapshot annual cost for salary and benefits, you're looking at that $58,000 to $60,000 range. And then we talked about the laptop, which would just the hardware, IT support, hardware and software, which would be at FY21 cost. However, future maintenance occurs with all of our IT equipment and future replacement as well. But that one-time cost is being budgeted in FY21. Then for the parking enforcement officer, you can see the total salary with benefits for that $55,000 range. Again, subject to change with healthcare plans. And then you can see the salary range of what we'd be trying to do, just over $40,000 likely. But again, we won't know until we put it out there for advertisement and see what we can do. And this, again, is subject to the annual percentage increases that we do for all of our employees, the same technology support. And then in addition, for this position would be the actual parking enforcement vehicle that police are beginning to research different options for. This one on the picture there is quoted at roughly $32,000, and we expect another potential $10,000 in additional upfit. But we'll have to get those details in place and then look to finance that over 5 years. We'd have to check with Enterprise. I don't think Enterprise would have this type of specialized vehicle as part of their fleet program, so we probably have to go directly to other vendors for this. But you can see that 5-year reoccurring cost is going to be around probably $6,000 to $8,000 is what we're looking at for those reoccurring costs. Are there any questions about this before I move on to the CARES Act?
Councilmember Shoemaker has a question.
Why do we need such a specialized vehicle for parking enforcement? I see the Manassas one, they just drive a regular vehicle, and we could save a lot of money going. That's the whole reason why we passed the enterprise vehicle plan, was in order to cut costs, and now we're literally not going to use that. Why can't we just use a regular vehicle?
Chief Lugo, if you're there.
Sir, to answer your question, the vehicle that you see in the picture is specialized in parking enforcement. One, it's smaller, so on 2-lane roadways, this vehicle can pull close to the street parking vehicles, and other motorists can get around it safely versus a standard full-size vehicle. Also, that vehicle has sliding doors on both sides, so the officer can get out from either side to the curb side, which is safer. Also, that vehicle is equipped with other technology, such as LPRs for your digital chalking, things like that for when city center comes in. It has a 9-foot turn radius, which a standard vehicle would not, so that I can make a U-turn in very small sections to come back the other opposite direction of the street. They offer in both a gas version and an electric version, depending on your choice.
What's the price difference between gas and electric?
Electric is more.
How much, do we know how much more?
I believe it's between 10 and 15,000 additional.
Oh, okay, wow, okay. That looks like a smaller vehicle. Is that safe for the officer to drive around in?
Yes, ma'am, that vehicle is street legal.
Okay.
I believe the top speed is 40 to 45 miles an hour.
Okay, okay.
It is built that the frame of it acts like a roll cage, so if it were to experience a crash or something, the occupant would remain safe.
Okay.
And it is heated and cooled on the interior.
Thank you. Did you have a follow-up?
Well, I just worry then what you said is, I mean, we're talking about safety and we need red lights and we need cameras and we need speed cameras, and we're going to put an officer in a, I drive a vehicle similar to that. I know what they're like. I've been at the post office for 16 years, and we have vehicles that are similar to that, and they're not safe. Mm-hmm. And that vehicle only has one wheel on the front. So, I mean, that's by definition not good in inclement weather. It's not going to be good in snow. It's going to be in rain. I'd be worried about putting one of our employees in a vehicle like that and putting them on a street, because if they're hit, that's not going to go well. I mean, I hear you say that there's a safety cage, but I would be concerned. It's a lot of liability for that person. It's a lot of liability for the city to put them in a vehicle of that size, because that doesn't look very big.
A couple points, and Chief or Trevor, you can confirm this. I'm believing these types of vehicles are kind of standard across jurisdictions for parking enforcement, number one, and then number two, this is probably safer than our motorcycle or bicycle that we put police officers on as well. I'm not sure, especially the bicycles that will have officers ride on as well. But motorcycles as well are not entirely safe, and you have motorcycle officers. So I would guess this is safer than that. And then I'm guessing these are the types of vehicle standard for parking enforcement. Is that correct, Trevor?
Yes, sir. This particular company's been around for many years. You see these in especially larger cities such as New York, and also Aspen, Colorado, for example, uses these vehicles.
Thank you, Laszlo. That's a good point about this versus having an officer on a bike or a motorcycle.
Do we have any motorcycles in the city?
No, bicycles.
Okay. Councilmember Machado, questions?
What other jurisdictions drive? Do they drive a vehicle like this?
I think it varies jurisdiction to jurisdiction. Manassas City, for example, I believe they're driving a standard sedan.
Okay. Councilmember Mensing, do you have any questions?
Not at this point, thank you.
Okay. Let's see if the folks at home do have any questions on this. Councilmember Javed.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Sendejas?
I guess what Councilmember Shoemaker stated, like, how would this vehicle work in the snow or inclement weather?
Again, personally, I don't know. This was the vehicle that we put forward to you as an example of options available. Obviously, before purchase, we've had a discussion with the vendor and discussed several of these topics, such as inclement weather.
How many snow days do we have a year that it could not operate? I mean, probably a handful, you know. Okay, Vice Mayor Banks?
I've seen, well, okay, in DC where I work, and also in Arlington, Crystal City, I've seen the regular police vehicles being used, as well as the Segways. Now the Segways give that mobility that you can kind of get in this vehicle, but I've never seen this type of small vehicle for parking enforcement. And sometimes the officers will get out and walk the block and give the tickets or look at the cars. So I definitely share Councilmember Shoemaker's concerns about the vehicle. And I think, I mean, and as well as his point that, we could just, this is part of the fleet program that we have. We can just add it on as another cruiser for the parking enforcement officer. Is this a must-have vehicle for this, parking enforcement officer? Because I've seen regular vehicles used, like I mentioned. That's my question.
Yeah, so before Trevor answers kind of the operational, we would have to put in a budget for a vehicle regardless. I'm not sure that this is going to be more expensive than the cruiser and fit out of a normal police vehicle. And Trevor, maybe you can provide that. But again, what we're doing here is putting in a budget amount. To Trevor's point, we have to go out then and start, doing the research if this is approved, to go out and then bring you all back kind of the final solution. But I don't think this is necessarily cheaper than a normal police vehicle.
Mr. Douglas,
I'm sorry, more.
A standard police vehicle is going to cost substantially more than this. Again, I was asked for options specific to parking, such as in tight spaces. And we have several narrow roadways in Manassas Park, the new city center coming online. This vehicle would accommodate those needs. Again, this vehicle is specific for parking enforcement. It has technology on board that we probably would not get on a standard cruiser, at least at this cost. That's why this was presented as an option, not a must, as an option to you. Obviously, you can choose whichever vehicle you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we may have to budget more if we're going to go. If you would prefer us to buy a normal police cruiser versus a specialized parking enforcement vehicle, so we'd actually have to increase the budget amount.
Okay, thank you. I understand.
Okay, thank you. Let's continue with the presentation.
Yeah, there. So continuing on and giving you all an update on CARES Act, where we are. Again, revenues. I don't want to repeat what we've done with revenues. There's no change for that one, with one exception. PON is calculating the interest earned on this money, and when we get that final number, we also have to calculate that as part of our revenues, which is another reason why we want to try to go over budget and make sure we account for that interest money also being utilized as well, where we have to return that money as well. Right now, we're estimating roughly $9,000 of interest to earn so far and to be accrued through December with CARES Act money that we would add to this. You can see the major pending items remaining. We're close to being done. Most of these things are on autopilot. They're going to happen here over the next week. The two major ones are the small business support program, round 2 of the grants to the same businesses who applied, giving them that additional support. We hope to have those checks out by the end of this week. So that will cover most of that $220,000, the remainder being the employee support program for the nonprofit skill source that we provided. They do expect to use all that $25,000 that we provided them earlier. And then this number here, the 219, the biggest chunk of that is coming from the HVAC program for the fire station. And then this 40,000 is the fire department, the backup. You'll see that you all approved a month ago that we weren't sure we were going to be able to fund. We are going to be based off some other technology items that achieved. So that's from an overall picture of where we're at with CARES Act. So we spent most when you combine 20 and 21, and you can see what we have left in the two biggest items that are occurring right now. Kenny is pretty confident we should be done here over the next week or so with the HVAC program. get the invoice just after to be able to pay that as well. So we should be pretty good with the expenditures. For programs 1 through 2, for one, Parks and Rec, no other change, just continual support to ACTS, who came here last week to brief you all on their operations for food delivery. So we want to continue to provide them as much support as possible to be able to service our residents through the difficult winter that we're having right now with COVID-19. Again, the round 2 of the grants to match, essentially just matching what we did in round 1, just to continue to help these businesses out, because round 1 numbers were nowhere near what the reported losses were. So we wanted to give a second round to help those businesses out. And then that workforce development program total $25,000. You can see what we have left, but they're currently training Manassas Park employees, so they actually believe that they're going to be utilizing that remaining money as well. For programs 3 through 4, rent and utility, we put a low number here for pending, because again, we're trying to go over the CARES Act budget rather than go under. But Randy feels we might be able to surpass this number. She continues to get applications in, and we'll give you kind of a final roll up once the program's over for how many people we were able to serve. One of the bills that Congress is looking at right now would continue the rent and mortgage moratorium and potentially provide some additional funding. I'm not sure if that funding would come directly to us or through the housing departments at the county level or not, but that's being discussed right now at the federal congressional level. So we're still processing applications to help people out with these 2 programs, but we wanted to budget very conservative at a lower number to make sure that we're not going to stay under the total CARES Act budget. Paid sick and medical leave, again, this is another one that we're leaving some money, and it was probably better that we did, because we're starting to see a significant increase in the number of employees. It seems like this week, every day we've had a different employee who's had to be quarantined, either due to exposure or a positive test. So those numbers are expected to go up, those expenditures, and the last child care support program payment as well. For technology, again, this is the fire department. We put in $50,000 not to exceed. I went with a conservative number for $40,000 because they're still in the process of purchasing all the equipment, getting the installation. So we'll probably be somewhere in between that $40,000 that I have here and the $50,000 that you authorized them a month ago, and then just some smaller items here and there that the other departments had for technology. And then the remaining kind of staff costs that we've had for the additional employee support to Randy's department for the increased benefits management and the rent utility mortgage support program as well. That money will be drying up here at the end of this month. So again, Randy's team will have that extra hours of support. Hopefully Congress will be able to help with that. And then the treasurer as well, since they're short staffed, they've had to hire some temporary support. They had an employee out because of COVID-19 prior concerns on FMLA, so we had to hire some temporary staff support to help them with that. And now they have a lot of employees who are out of due to exposure or positive tests as well. And then Chris and Don's continual IT support for all the implementation of all of the large IT expenditures that you have here that we're working on and making great progress on as well. For social distancing, again, and support for our employees to keep them safe, the biggest chunk of this is the HVAC program for fire station, and we're also doing the duct cleaning for the library and the public works building as well to help them out with their breathing air quality at their facilities. And then for cleaning support, just a few more items that Kenny will be looking to purchase to make sure we have enough cleaning supplies to help out with our aggressive cleaning, and the final payments for the cleaning staff surge, which unfortunately that money will run out at the end of the month as well. So we're going to have to cut that contract and rely on internal staffing unless we want to, if we feel we need to make that change. We'll see how things are going, but with cleaning, but that CARES Act money will dry up for that program. And then for EMS equipment, this will actually go up by $2,000. Final numbers from Robbie and his team today, so that number needs to go up by $2,000. And so that's it for CARES Act. Any questions on CARES Act before I move on to the last slide?
Okay. Questions here? Questions?
Are we expecting to have to return any of it? And if so, how much?
That's why these numbers are highlighted. They're not done yet. So you can look at all the highlighted numbers. Again, the majority of them are being worked on. So like this 212,000, the checks are Tanya and Chris are working on that today. So the checks will be going out by the end of this week. So that's a big one. ACTS, I signed that one today. That should be going out for food donation. The biggest ones that we're uncertain about are going to be like the rent, mortgage, utility support, the paid sick medical leave. We're leaving kind of a little bit amount there, but we're not leaving a lot. But we wanted to keep a cushion going through this month because we knew there was so many people applying for support here. So we wanted to continue to be able to support them, and we're still seeing those applications come in. And then for paid sick and medical leave, we knew December was going to be a rough month, so we wanted to keep some money tucked away. So, but these are going to be the main that we just don't know. But based off what's happening now, we do think we're going to get there. And then just the salary stuff, again, we're going to be very close, if not right at these numbers, because we're still working those hours for those employees. So we don't expect to come under here. This is just a contract issue that we're trying to, our department's trying to deal with the hospital with, but we're hoping to get that wrapped up also by the end of this week or next week. But again, this is another small amount. And then Kenny feels confident he can get some more supplies here. Along with the PPE, that one's pretty good as well. And we're also getting requests that Keith and Chief Evans are helping to process from the health department as they implement the vaccination program in 2021. They're looking for some equipment support, PPE support to do that. So we're using our CARES Act money to help them as they vaccinate our residents in 2021. So we're pretty confident we're going to spend it all. We did have some IT stuff that kind of came under and some errors in calculation there. But we still feel confident we're going to be able to spend everything, or if not, we're just going to return a few $1,000s back to the federal government.
Okay. You have a question?
Yes, I have two questions. Laszlo, is for the rent utility support program, is the deadline still December 18th or is being extended?
Unfortunately, we have to wrap up the program, so we're trying to notify everyone that they really need to get their applications in, I believe, no later than December 28th, and for us to process it by December 30th. Randy, if you're on, if you can confirm kind of what we agreed to, but we need to wrap that program up, unfortunately, over the next week.
Yep, I'm here, Laszlo. Good evening, Mayor and members of the governing body. We did push out an updated flyer asking applicants to get an application in no later than December 18th, so that we would have enough time for finance to be able to close out, and with the holidays. With pushing out that due date, we did get some additional inquiries of people that had applied and didn't follow through. So we are seeing some movement here, but we are asking all citizens to attempt to get any inquiries to us or applications, I should say, by close of business on December 18th.
Okay. I also have another question. Okay. Laszlo, when an employee gets COVID here, supposedly here or any department, are they getting paid from the CARES Act program, or are they using the sick leave? How that works?
They're getting paid by CARES Act money. Until January, then we're going to have to, it's going to be city money. But right now we're still using CARES Act money. Since the moment we received confirmation that we were getting the CARES Act money, then everything that we've had since mid-March for employees who've been out, we've been able to count that as a legitimate CARES Act expenditure for all admin, what we call it, administrative leave for employees who are quarantining or who have positive, who are out of work, so they don't have to use sick leave.
Okay, thank you.
I guess it wasn't more of a question. I just want to say, Lazo, great job. I know this has been a project in and of itself for the life of that we've dealt with it. in the 6 or 8 months or however long we've been dealing with CARES. So I just wanted to say good job. I know it's a lot of accounting and bookkeeping to figure out what qualifies, what doesn't, and all those things. I guess the one comment that I had was I was concerned, along with what Councilmember Machado was bringing up, is the $19,000 under rent and mortgage assistance is just painfully low. I mean, unless there's just really not much impact here, it concerns me. I know how much rents and mortgages are here, and $19,000 is not very much. It doesn't represent that many months or that many people, and so I'm afraid that once the moratorium, the eviction moratorium, and foreclosure moratorium kind of are lifted, all of a sudden people are going to be months and months behind and don't realize that they could have gotten it paid for through the program. And then we're going to see a lot of people very in flux. They're going to be mobile because they're going to be forced out of where they're living, and we won't have the capacity to help them in January or February or March once those things start cycling through. And I know Hasib probably can comment to this. We were having discussions in our real estate firm that we see a major potential foreclosure crisis coming in 21. So if there are people out there who have lost money due to COVID, lost jobs, or even reductions in hours, and they're behind on their mortgage or they're behind on their rent, please apply now, because once the moratoriums are lifted in January or February or later, we won't have any money under our current money that we have through CARES. We won't be able to help you. So I just worry, because foreclosed properties also hurt property values, and that could also hurt the city. But it's obviously a catastrophe for the families involved, but it also secondarily hurts neighborhoods and it hurts the city.
It will reduce our revenue stream.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Okay.
it's terrible for the families involved.
Absolutely.
So I'm just concerned, because
It's a
when
tragedy.
I see
Yeah.
that number, and I'm
It is.
thinking,
Yeah.
there must be more people out there that qualify that maybe just don't know that there's assistance.
Okay. Councilmember Javed, comments or questions on the CARES Act?
No, I have no questions or comments.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Sendejas.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Banks?
No questions, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Laszlo.
Sure. Moving on to the last slide, based off Councilman Shoemaker's comments during the public hearing, I just quickly ran some math so you would all have that for your discussion. So the current rate, again, for the viewing public is $1.55 per $100 of assessed value. So each penny now yields approximately $165,000. It's difficult to get an exact number because of the tax relief program that Debbie's office manages, but this is the rough number of what each generates in revenue. Then a half penny would cost the city $82,000 lost revenue if we were to go to that. And then, of course, we'd have to discuss with Debbie and Patty any implementations of a mid-year change, what that would entail. But I just wanted to add that to help you all out with your conversation for Councilman Shoemaker's proposal. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Excellent presentation. Okay, let's start. Councilmember Mensing, your thoughts.
My thoughts are to proceed as we had discussed with the parking enforcement changes and the change to the school expenditure to remove the roof. As much as I would like to do a tax cut right now, I don't think that it's the smartest decision. I do definitely want to discuss it in June, though, for the budget in June. That's all.
Okay. And my comments and my thoughts are pretty much the same as Councilmember Mensing. I think we should proceed with the changes that City Manager put on the cover sheet. Definitely get the enforcement officer, the administrative position, community development assistance, and the schools at 142, not the 442. And I agree that I'm concerned about the foreclosure, that we're in very uncertain territory regarding the economy. It could get worse. We have no idea what's going to happen. We have no idea how long COVID is going to hang on. The economy could get worse. If we have anything extra in the budget, it needs to go into reserves. So I would say it's not the smartest thing to do to have any tax reductions right now, although definitely look at it for the FY22 budget. So, Councilmember Machado.
Yes. First of all, I would like to thank Laszlo, your leadership, the finance department, for the finance status that the city holds right now. And please use all your resources for the rent and utility support program, because I know that there are a lot of people that are misinformed. They are afraid to apply. They don't know if they can handle all the requirements. But please keep pursuing this support. And I'm also agree with all the points that Councilmember Mensing and Mayor have listed. For the school expenditures, I also agree that the budget should go to the chiller for the middle high school roof. We have to consider after we get the presentation from the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Shoemaker.
First of all, I just wanted to echo Councilmember Machado's comment about how great the staff has been just through this whole process, as I said before, Laszlo. I also wanted to echo a comment that Councilmember Mensing made last week, actually. I guess I was surprised that there isn't a school representative here to present on their behalf, even after quite a few emails from the mayor with, I'm not sure if it was with the superintendent and also with the chair of the school board, is that correct?
Yes.
So I guess I was still surprised that this week we still don't have a representative or even something in writing. I just point that out. I am supportive of the chiller because we did agree to it, but I feel like it's a missed opportunity for conversation and dialogue between the bodies, which we say is one of our goals. But I feel like we've had two missed opportunities now in rapid succession. So I hope that that going into 2021 that we can improve that, I guess. I brought up the idea of the mid-year tax reduction because it is the number one concern of our residents. And with all due respect to all my colleagues, it's the idea that always gets put last every time. And I say that with all respect. I know we have so many needs in the city, but if there isn't somebody that brings it up, it wasn't even on the agenda. It wasn't even on a bullet point. It was not. And so
Donald, you're not giving us enough credit. We have a financial plan that was drafted by staff and approved by the governing body, and we're trying to stick to that plan. And
I have on at least for 2 years, I have asked the staff to accelerate the tax reductions from FY25 to at least FY23, and that still hasn't been done. Even though we have $1.5 million in debt service that will come off in FY23, there's still, at this point, it's December 15th, I still don't see a revised financial plan that reflects, the improved capacity of the city, as well as as well as the reality that there'll be less debt service and that there should be. We've said that the reason why the tax rate is high is because we're paying debt service. But debt service will come off, and I don't see a financial plan that reflects that at this point. I hope in the future that it does. And
we've had discussions about the two things happening: the reduction in the debt service, FY23, combined with potential incoming revenue from the downtown. That is going to make the big impact for this city. Yes, is that Laszlo?
Yeah. Can I add a comment to that? With the budget this past year, remember it was a crazy budget because I had two different models, one with downtown and one without downtown. So the one with the downtown was assuming you all would, if you voted on the downtown, here was the financial future, and that one did have the tax cut starting in FY23, and there was two reasons for that. Again, now the downtown's bringing revenues, but also remember the 15% fund balance ratio. The reason why in the no downtown plan it was pushed back to FY24 is because that's when we had forecasted getting to the 15%, but we're above the 15% now, which is why when I presented this last week, I said there's now opportunities in FY22, knowing that the downtown is approved, our future financial position should be much better, and with the fund ratio now getting above the 15%, we're ready in FY22 to potentially be more aggressive pending the real estate market situation when we get to March, April timeframe.
So there has been discussion about this.
Yeah. I'm just pointing out, I just did quick math because I'm pretty good at math. We're going to spend $253,000 more. That's all the additions. I'm counting the $142 for the chiller, the $30,000 to the community development, $6,100 to the police department capital budget, $47,000 to the police budget for parking enforcement and revenue management administrative positions. And those are both reoccurring costs, $8,000 for the IT hardware and $20,000 for the capital budget for the capital project implementations.
You're lumping everything into one category. You have recurring and non-recurring costs all lumped together.
Right. But I'm saying is we are spending $250,000 more, taking all six of these proposals together.
But what do we do if we decide to cut the tax rate and things don't go as well, or these foreclosures happen that you talked about, and now we have a $166,000 recurring expense that we've committed ourselves to? Are we going to raise it again?
You could raise it in June.
There's no way I would raise it again.
No.
But I'm only
You're going to make us look like fools.
Yeah, and people would not be able to budget for that.
Yeah.
They would say, oh, great, now I can save this money. Oh, what? That would just not. I would rather wait 6 months when we're confident that we can do it.
Yeah. That would be a tragedy, to lower it and then raise it again.
Yeah, there's no way I would do that.
Well, but I mean, Manassas, that's why every year we adjust. We've been at $1.55 or higher for now almost 12 years.
Well, we need to come down and be consistent about it so that people can have faith in us and know that we're going to not just mess with their tax dollars.
Well, that's why I've asked for just for a penny, because that would be consistent. That would be manageable long term. I'm not asking for 5 or 10 cents. We're only asking because we're willing to spend this extra money. There's money available for reductions.
You need to recalculate that, first of all. You need to take away all of the one-time expenditures and just look at the recurring costs.
Right. We're still spending it.
It's perspective.
Well, we're still spending it. We say we don't have money for tax reductions, and I would argue we could if we made a different decision. That's all I'm saying. It's the number one issue for the residents of the city. It doesn't matter where in the city they live. I hear it everywhere. And so
and we all pay the same taxes. I pay the same rate that Miriam pays, that you pay. We all pay that.
Yeah.
But we're trying to do this the balanced way, and we're trying to do it the sensible way.
Yeah. The balanced way never includes tax reduction. That's what I'm pointing out. And
It will.
It will.
Not yet.
Well, we absolutely have this on our radar.
You yourself said that you knew that the finances of the city were not good when you came on board, and you realized just how bad they are.
right,
How bad they were.
but we've
So-
improved them a lot, though.
We
Quite a
have
bit.
improved, but we are
By
not
millions
there
and
yet.
millions of dollars.
We are not there yet.
It's a big step to take.
It
I want to
is.
know that I'm taking it and be confident when I take it. And I have faith that it will be soon.
Yeah. I mean, we adjust the tax rate every year, though. I mean, Manassas does it. Prince William, I mean, other jurisdictions, they adjust every year based on their needs and based on different things. So we could do it. That's why I brought it up as a discussion point.
And at this particular time, with COVID still an issue, I mean, this would be probably the worst possible time to do something like that. The city has to survive. We are still in survival mode. Laszlo, could you please comment on that? We are still in survival mode. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Until we know what the ramifications will be for the real estate market, what the COVID-19 ramifications are, we're still living in kind of a tight situation here that we can easily fall back into where we were if we don't be careful. I'm hopeful that the real estate situation will hold strong so we can we're getting aggressive in FY22. One of the problems is going back to FY 2013, the city did the debt refinancing because of the struggling position to kind of push back the debt spike. And remember they created that financial model, and the tax rate was $1.65 there for the model. In 2015, they reduced that to $1.55. So they took that action that made it difficult for us to get through the debt peak, but we did it without raising taxes. And now we're finally getting over that hump of the debt peak and recovering financially as well from that. So I think we're set up now for success. But the last remaining question, again, we don't want to do something similar where we're setting ourselves up for failure. We want to make sure we get out of this situation before we start taking aggressive measures. And so that's why I'm recommending the FY22. That should give us time to evaluate what's going to happen here over the next few months. Of course, pending what congressional actions, we just don't know what Congress is going to do, if they're going to do anything. But let's assume they don't do anything, then we're going to start getting a good idea here January, February, March, what's going to happen with the real estate market with potential foreclosures and other things. If Congress acts, then we should feel more confident when we're preparing the FY22 budget to take more aggressive actions.
Okay. Thank you, Laszlo. Let's move on to the folks at home. We can come back if you decide you have more comments and questions, Donald. Okay. Councilmember Javed, your thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to say, I feel, Councilmember Shoemaker's point, taxes are important, but at the same time, services to our community is just as important as well. So can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
My computer froze. Yeah, services to the community is just as important, and we're setting up these procedures in place so that in the future we can do the tax reduction. They're like these parking fines, adding this admin to collect that additional revenue is just as important. So once we have that stream of revenue, we can do those tax reductions. But yeah, I feel that I'm for everything. I just had a question about the code analysis amendment, the 30,000 budgeted. Is that for contract services or is that an actual employee or staff? Because it wasn't clear on the agenda.
Yeah, my apologies for that. That's consulting support. Right, so it would be a contractor who would come in, do the code analysis, research other code options for us. One example is the town we discussed, kind of the Fairfax County model for how they treat commercial vehicles in residential areas. So evaluating all of that, coming back to you all with recommendations for how to amend the code to enhance our enforcement program, and then if we decide to move to the ticketing program, then helping us do the implementation, the software implementation, the code amendment as well.
And then at that point, we would need to hire a staff, I'm assuming.
We already have the code enforcement officer on staff, so they would then leverage the new ticketing software and the new enhanced code stuff. But to your point, if we want to, remember we used to have 4 employees doing code enforcement pre-Great Recession. We only have 1 right now. 1 is out right now. There's a lot of staffing issues that we have when we're 1-people departments. So if we want to expand, so this is just allowing us to be more effective, arming the code enforcement officer to be more efficient and effective in doing their job. If we want more enforcement, then again, you just have to add additional people hours focused on enforcement as well. But that's, I think, is a separate issue. We first want to have the right strategy, the right code in place, and then we can talk about kind of expanding the capacity to do so.
And then my last point or comment was, I guess, in regards to the schools, I guess the school board didn't have a chance to debrief us about the roof. It's a shame how, it's just the people suffering, like the teachers and kids, and just because we were not able to get into some type of common ground. But I see everybody's point that we can't make a decision without being briefed first. So with that said, I agree with the decrease or the increase to only 142. Other than that, I think I have no other questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Javed. I forwarded the email to all of you, and according to the email from Dr. McDade, he will be briefing the school board at their January work session. And so it does not appear that it's like an emergency. So, and then after he briefs the school board at the work session, then they will come and talk with us. That's my understanding from the email that I forwarded to everyone. Okay. Councilmember Sendejas.
Yes, I pretty much echo everyone's comments. When it comes to our finances, it's about making sure that we're in a healthy situation long term. For the longest time, like we've been putting band-aids to all of our problems, and then because hectic later on, but right now it's like kind of like doing surgery so that we can recover and be 100% in the future. Like what Donald says about lowering taxes, like that's what we all hear. But we need to be financially responsible at this time. I mean, it's not a popular decision, but we gotta do what's best for our community, for services, and everyone that lives in the city. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Vice Mayor Banks.
Spot on about the stimulus. If Congress doesn't pass that soon, it will have a negative impact on our citizens and on our city. I think I mentioned earlier this year, that I don't think that the recovery from the pandemic is going to be V-shaped, and it's like the mayor mentioned and Councilmember Mensing mentioned, we just don't know what's going to play out. I mean, we have the vaccine, and at the same time, we have to deal with increasing COVID numbers and hospitalizations and deaths. So we may have possible more restrictions or even a shutdown. I know New York City's Mayor de Blasio today announced a shutdown of New York City after Christmas. So I don't know what's going to happen in Virginia. And we remember how sudden the restrictions and the shutdown happened. It was without any consultation with us. The governor just announced it, and we had to abide. So we don't know what's going to happen, and so I think it's best to play it safe. And let's just give it some time.
Okay. Is further comment, Preston, or is that it?
No questions.
Okay. Another point, Councilmember Javed, that I neglected to mention, the roof is really a nice weather project, so they might consider placing it into their FY22 budget. And likewise, if it were a true emergency, they would have probably redirected the funds that they used for paving their parking lots and redirected those funds towards the high school roof. So I just wanted to mention that. That also factored into my decision to remove the $300,000 and just go with the $142 for the chiller. So I just wanted to mention that.
Which parking lots were repaid? Which parking lots were repaid?
I agree.
Yeah, it's in their CIP.
Was it the secondary camp?
It was, I think, most of the parking lots. I think there was one that was not, but most of them were repaved.
Oh, okay.
I think. You can check their CIP.
I can't remember from the present. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, and neither can I. So, okay.
I just
Yes,
have
ma'am.
one comment. We couldn't do the tax reduction, Donald, during our time, but we are in that direction, as Council Member Sendeja said. I'm pretty sure that is one of the top priorities you have in your agenda. Let's remember the 1% salary increase that we all thought about that. So that is a good direction that we are for the employees.
Absolutely. And
Yes.
Donald felt strongly about that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And the three of you may not have actually lowered the tax rate, but you set us up to put us in a position to do that. So we have to thank the three of you for that so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also make one comment as well, as kind of a reminder where we were, that we were able to deal with the debt spike without increasing the tax rate, which was a huge accomplishment. We did across the board cuts in spending. We did a lot of reforms, a lot of initiatives to bring spending down significantly, generate revenues through other means, and we didn't touch the tax rate. We weathered the storm and got through the peak debt period without having to do that, when the model said we kind of had to stick with that higher tax rate to kind of get back to the 15%. We got above the 15%. We got through the debt peak, but without having to raise taxes, and we set ourselves up now to be able to responsibly reduce taxes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Laszlo. And I think it's important. We know what we have to do to serve the public. We know that there has to be balance. We don't govern through referendum. We don't govern via polling data. We don't govern versus opinions on Facebook. We have to do what we believe is right, and we have to do it in a way that balances everything across the entire city. So, in other words, we have to vote our conscience. So, are there any further comments or questions?
I did have a question, because we hadn't seen a thing from them. Is our renters at the Stonehouse? Where are we at that lease? And I haven't, because I thought, as part of that, they were supposed to report every year about this time, about what they've done in terms of.
Okay, that's not, we're in a budget discussion right now.
I know, but that there's a rent associated with that lease.
We're still collecting rent. From a budget standpoint, we are still collecting rent, but I would have to go back to the contract to get any further details for that.
Yeah,
we are still collecting monthly rent payments.
I just wondered if it was up for renewal, that we could increase the rent, and would give us another revenue source. But I guess,
as I recall, that was the going rate.
We finally got it. Yeah. I just couldn't remember. It's been 2 or 3 years now.
We don't do. Sorry.
We don't escalate just to escalate something, No. And there's not an escalator clause in their rent, right, Laszlo?
What's that?
And there's not an escalator clause in their rent contract, right?
I have to go back, but I don't think there was. And the building is in very bad shape,
right?
As well. So from a market standpoint, if we really want to kind of capture market value, we'd have to spend some money on renovating. They're the one few that kind of have been just weathering the kind of the bad facility shape and continuing to pay rent and use that building. But it's certainly we can continue to evaluate. It's just when we did the market analysis, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I remember we were looking at a lot of properties and we came back with a number that we thought was reasonable based off the market rate plus the condition of that building.
Yes, that's exactly what I recall. And I do not recall an escalator clause in the contract. So thank you, Laszlo. Okay, have we made a decision to vote for the FY21 budget amendment, folks? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Staff recommendation is that the governing body adopt the FY21 budget amendment as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you very much, Laszlo, finance team, everyone, for putting this together. This is great. Okay, moving on to the next third quarter FY21 budget appropriations request for city and schools.
So good evening again. These numbers here reflect the budget amendment that was just approved, the third quarter appropriations based off that adjusted budget for the general fund. And it does reflect the school board did vote affirmatively to approve their quarter three request to you all with the numbers that were provided on this agenda item. So that doesn't have to change. So these numbers work for both the city, for ASAP, and for the schools. They're still in line. One note for the schools, with their request, they have a $25,000 variance, so higher than what you all voted on for the FY21 budget. Of course, now we're going to increase it by the $142,000 that what you voted on back in June was roughly $12,499,000. We'll now be increasing that by $142,000. But regardless, we'll just have to see in quarter four if it's higher by $25,000 or not. The current finance director, who did a really great job with the audit, he came in and had to kind of close do some quick turnaround right when he got the job. And he did a great job of helping Pon out to get the audit done on time. So we're very thankful for him, and he seems to be a great partner for the city. So we need to give him some time to evaluate what was put in there, but he's looking into that. He did find that there was, in the language of the budget book, there was $25,000 placed in. So this is the number you all voted on in June. This is what they have in their appropriations request, because there's a $25,000 amount from an FY19 grant that they wanted to expend in 21. So the funds were appropriated in 19. So they wanted to carry that over into 21, but it wasn't part of their request to us, so we didn't add it to this number. So if they want to add that number, they're going to have to come back as part of their budget amendment for potentially when they present the roof to ask for that, or pull it from local funds or another source. So it's just, I give you the heads up because we may have that issue in quarter four. If it's not adjusted, that $25,000, we'll have to bring that back to your attention as well. But this was the legal number that you all voted on back in June for the budget, and then now we'll be increasing it by $142,000 per the budget amendment tonight.
Okay.
So I just wanted to provide that caveat, but the new finance director is looking into that and seeing what the options are. So.
Okay, thank you, Laszlo. So this already takes into consideration that there will not be the $300,000. Is that correct? Just for clarification.
Correct. Yep.
Just the 142. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Mensing.
No questions.
Okay. Councilmember Machado.
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Shoemaker.
Question for the school side. Has there been some reconciliation now that we're almost halfway through the year that whether they're going to have increased or decreased expenses due to COVID? And I'm thinking specifically of since most children are not going physically to the school, that they're not running buses right now full-time. They're not, employing bus drivers. They're not using gas. They don't have the maintenance expenses. Is there some recognition that their expenses are actually lower than what they budgeted for? I mean, it seems like we're just cutting the budget in fours, which is fine. I guess they'll be under at the end of the year, but have they been able to quantify kind of where they're at year to date and how much maybe they might be under for most of the year, since it looks like we're going to be probably virtual for a good part of this school year? Just wondering what that number might be.
I have not received any number like that. I would guess that they would provide that as part of their FY22 budget presentation, where you, like normally, go mid-year, kind of where actuals are mid-year. That should be reflected in their FY22 budget presentation whenever they provide that to you. But I don't have that number.
And maybe the expectation that there'll be less bus purchases, given that most buses aren't being driven, so there'll be less mileage. There may be some long-term savings on their capital side because they may be able to go a year with no budget, with no bus purchases, given the low amount of mileage that most of their buses are probably getting. Could be a budget savings.
Yeah, again, those would be questions for them. I'm not sure. I know they were using their buses for, I believe they were using it for meals delivery, but you would have to inquire with them on any potential savings there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Lasso. Councilmember Javed.
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Sendejas.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Banks.
No questions. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Staff recommendation is that the governing body approve $17,659,066 to the city, including $292,473 for Bull Run ASAP for third quarter of fiscal year 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstained, motion carries. The second staff recommended motion is that the governing body appropriate $13,411,340 to city schools for quarter 3 of fiscal year 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to manager's report.
Did we add an agenda item or did we not? I thought we added an agenda item about rezoning, but if not, I could discuss that in the manager report.
No, that is in your manager's report.
I'll just go ahead and just in the manager report.
Yeah, so that was the intention.
The acquisition of Lot 1A, the CDL school, as part of our downtown, plus to get our zoning to align with our current zoning regulations. We're looking to rezone Lot 1A, the VRE garage site, and then the City Hall building. It's designated as public facilities PF in our zoning to be consistent with how we zone other publicly owned parcels as well. So now that we have Lot 1A, we want to bring that to your attention, and I believe the city attorney has provided a recommended motion to the mayor for what staff would like, so we could initiate that rezoning to public facilities again for Lot 1A, the City Hall building, and the VRE garage site, since those are public uses.
Yes, and city attorney has.
This is not a rezoning. This is just to initiate it. The actual scope of it will be determined by the zoning administrator. Right now, we do need to rezone the Lot 1A, though, to proceed. It's recommended that we go, for a lot of reasons, to go ahead and include the proposed City Hall and the VRE parking, although those may, depending on what the zoning administrator says, they may not be included. So the motion will just be to authorize the initiation of rezoning of Lot 1A to PF and those adjacent city-owned properties as deemed necessary by the zoning administrator. Again, this is just to initiate it. It will come before you and the Planning Commission as a public hearing.
Thank you, Dean. And I did receive the motion via email. Thank you. Councilmember Mensing.
No question. Are we just asking a question about this or general questions for manager's report? Because I have a question about something else.
We're going to vote on this, so.
Okay, no questions about this.
Okay. Councilmember Machado.
No questions.
Okay. Councilmember Shoemaker. Councilmember Javed.
No questions.
Okay. Councilmember Sendejas.
No questions, thank you.
Vice Mayor Banks.
Dean, I do have a question. So the rezoning the public facilities, can we restrict it, or does it mean that it's open for anyone to it's the public? My concern is that someone can use that empty parking lot in 1A when it is empty as like for test driving or for just use it for some use that we didn't intend it to be used for parking.
No. We'll still control it. It's the public facilities designation is just the zoning district, and it really has to do with what can be done there, what uses are permitted. The city still controls the property and can still prohibit that kind of activity.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Preston. Okay, the motion that I have is that the governing body authorize city staff to initiate a rezoning of Lot 1A to the PF Public Facilities Zoning District, together with those adjacent city-owned properties deemed necessary by the zoning administrator.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I think we need one more aye. Okay. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Did everyone at home? Okay. You abstained, Hasib? Yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay, one abstention. Okay, motion passes. And do you have anything further, City Manager?
No, just we're seeing some spread COVID-19 through the treasurer's office, so we're taking actions as we get more information. And we got everyone in City Hall as a safety measure tested. So we're trying to get ahead of it. Right now, the evidence points is just at the treasurer's office, but we want to play it safe beyond there as well. But Patty's taking kind of necessary measures to at least continue to provide some service level while we're struggling with the situation. And that's why we haven't put out the messaging about moving to appointment only going forward, because our messaging right now is that we're closed because of this situation. So once we can get everyone back healthy, then we'll reopen by appointment only. So we were on the right track to act before. Maybe we acted maybe a week or two a little too late we moved ahead of everybody else. We're, I think, the only jurisdiction so far who took that action, or the first jurisdiction to take that action to go to appointment only based off the rising numbers that we're seeing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. I believe you had a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering how we're looking for tomorrow's possible weather event.
Yeah, the numbers keep going down, the accumulation, so we're not too concerned with it. Public Works crew is mobilizing. We may have a COVID issue there as well, so we have to keep watch on that. So we're thankful that we got that contract done in case we do get a bigger snow event that you all approved last week. But we're ready for that tomorrow. It's likely going to be 1 to 3 inches right now is what we're seeing. The only real concern we have, we're not activating the emergency routes. We met as a team today because of the low accumulation. Everything's been treated already today, so we shouldn't have issues. The evening you may have some ice up, so that's something Public Works will monitor. But there's just not enough accumulation for us to be concerned with. But we'll keep checking the forecast if it shifts back. Last we checked it a few hours ago. Everything was wasn't looking that bad. And Keith, I don't know if you looked at it in the last couple hours or not. If you want to comment on that.
evening, Council. I just checked as you were talking, the projections still remain the same. We're looking at 23 inches.
23 inches?
Thank you.
1 to 3 inches.
Oh.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
he sounded like he said 23.
Yeah, so 1 to 3 inches. For the community center, we will watch it tomorrow as well. If we see a lot of ice accumulating, we may just close the community center early tomorrow, but we do plan on having it open for most of the day tomorrow.
Okay. Do you have any more questions?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Machado, any questions of City Manager?
I guess just for the public's benefit is what I know we're kind of doing an appointment only, but to remind the citizens that we're closed all Christmas Eve, all Christmas Day, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and, for the holidays, just that we're actually closed all of the eves. So is that correct, Lazo?
That is correct.
Okay. So that we will be closed.
Yeah. Councilmember Javed, any questions of City Manager?
Yeah, I have no questions, but I just want to wish everybody happy holidays. And to Hector, Miriam, and Donald, thank you again for your service. I know this was your last meeting. What you've accomplished in the last 4 years is going to put the city in the right path. So again, thank you. And everybody enjoy your holiday weekend, and we'll see you guys next year.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Asid.
Councilmember Sendejas, any questions for City Manager?
No questions, but I want to say thank you for all your work all these years and making sure that our employees are taking precaution and keeping our city running. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Banks.
Yeah, Laszlo, in case there is a possible shutdown in the near future, we're already closed, but it's just kind of like a replay of what we did months ago. What else would you have to do for the city in terms of shutting it down?
Yeah, so the community center would be the biggest one that if the governor is going to go back to kind of previous phases, then we would have to shut down. We wouldn't technically have to shut down because the executive orders weren't applying to government facilities for a period. I don't know if that got adjusted or not, but we would likely end up having to shut down the community center if we get to that point. So that's where we would see the biggest impact. And then again, it's just going to depend on how enforcement's going to be done. Right now, enforcement's done through the health department, not law enforcement. So unless the governor changes that, we're not involved with the enforcement efforts beyond reporting violations to the health department, who's the lead in that. But the community center would be the one who would be the most impacted, and then the other facilities would just again cease fire, which is take more restrictive measures in terms of letting when people come to use the facility.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
And council members, Sendejas and Miriam and Don, you guys are my seatmates. I'll miss you all, and it's been great working with you all, and like Councilmember Javed mentioned, you helped us go through our toughest period. If these years of high debt payments and just hard decisions we had to make. It really hit our gut sometimes. It was that hard, and the decisions, and knowing we wanted to do so much more for our staff and for our citizens, but we couldn't. And the audit, that was the scariest moment, I think. And so it was a lot of late nights and a lot of sleepless nights too. And what an experience. So thank you all for your service and to this community and just as governing body colleagues.
Thank you, Preston.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was lovely. I guess I get the last word here. This is a bittersweet evening. I'm going to miss very much Councilmember Machado, Councilmember Sendejas, and Councilmember Shoemaker. Going to miss you a lot, guys. But I'm looking forward to working with our newly elected council members, Amaya, Councilmember-elect Hampton, and Councilmember-elect Moore. So welcome. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun. We'll do a lot of work, but we'll have some fun too. And I want to wish everyone a really Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone, very much.
Thank you, city family.
Yeah, this is the